wisdom teacher, Sri Ram Ka. And you know, my beloved Kira Ra and I have been offering teachings, perspectives, and practices to uplift you, to bring out a discernment of what is authentic and what is less than authentic, what is in fact the density illusion. And we've been offering these teachings for the last 10 years at Self-Ascension.com and SriandKira.com and through our workshops around the world. It is now the time that we're delivering more and more material via the internet. The internet is truly the way to touch and inform and connect with people worldwide in a very cost-effective fashion for all concerned. We enjoy being with people in person because there is a dynamic, there is an energy of connection, of intimacy, and of rapport that can happen when we're truly in the energy field of another being. So given that we have that limitation on an internet connection, I do want to offer you some information that may be useful to you. So many people on a spiritual path are seeking what is called enlightenment, are seeking that enlightened state of being. The Buddha was once credited with saying, when a person hears of nirvana, they will unceasingly seek nirvana, lifetime after lifetime. And there is a truth here, because when we, as the being right here in form in the body, begin to touch our infinite nature, our authentic nature, it sets in motion, it sets up a discernment factor which begins to become fine-tuned lifetime or after lifetime. And today I want to offer you a little teaching, a little perspective that has been useful to me that you may find will help you as you wind your way through this grand hologram we call Earth School, this grand life. Because truly you can have it all. Yet until you reach the state of beingness that will allow you to recognize that you are it all, and I mean to truly recognize that this is all you, until you reach that point, it will have you more often than you enjoy it. Now, I don't mean to be cryptic. I just want to offer an acknowledgement and a little wink to those of you who have been dedicating yourself to a spiritual practice, to a spiritual path, and to recognize it's very, very challenging to touch the infinite nature that is the enlightened state of being while also being in the world. I used to joke at seminars, how do you tell a fish about water? They're in the water. They swim in the water. They breathe the water. How do you tell them about that which is not water? Very challenging to do through words. It happens through some other method. So consider for a moment that you're listening to me. You're listening to words. Yes, there's an image on the film here, and hopefully there's a sense of energy that you're experiencing, a sense of truth, because my intention is to benefit you, is to offer a gateway that is authentic and true, that it might help us all co-create a more dynamic, beautiful, harmonious world. You know, there is a paradox at work, because from the enlightened state, all is well. And from the game board of life, all is not well. Polarity, duality, opposition, interference are energies that we have co-created along with peace, love, and joy. And so this dynamic, this back and forth, this seesaw of what we might call dark energies interfacing with the lighter energies creates a complex arena upon which we play out our lives. Now, I don't mean to be heady. What I do mean to share with you is you're like the goldfish that we're trying to explain water to. Please understand that your consciousness becomes compartmentalized by beliefs. Beliefs are the ego's way of mapping reality. Belief is a roadmap. Belief says, because I have this sensation, this experience, it must mean one of these things. That's a bad person. That's an honest person. That's a spiritual person. For example, those are projected beliefs. Trusting in a system, a dogma, a method of living is a belief. What does it mean to be a man, a good boy? That's a belief. What does it mean to be a good girl, a good wife, a good woman? Again, value systems are beliefs. You get the point. How many belief systems are active in your consciousness? Ooh, there are subsets of belief systems. There are structures within structures. We call these structures refractions, because we've taken the canvas of infinite perception, the canvas of infinite beingness, and we have refracted it into something that's less than the original. Consider a crystal or a prism that's put up into a window where there was this blended light. It refracts it into distinct color rays. That's what belief systems are. They are refractions or subsets. And the subset then becomes a repetitive experience in your mind, in your consciousness. Now, that can be a lovely thing. We can go a whole lifetime with a certain set of beliefs and experiences and have, from a spiritual standpoint, the experience and the learning of a lifetime of a certain energy. And I can remember growing up appreciating people who were stable and predictable. People who were wild and unpredictable made me feel nervous. I was insecure, especially a child who grows up with a parent who is unpredictable or crazy-making. So we can see why the ego self, the ego meaning the sense of identity, that tissue of who you are, that's behind the lens. The ego wants belief systems. The ego wants stability. When our world becomes predictable, even with an acceptable amount of unpredictability, we're in that nice balanced state where the ego can still live and thrive, and the deeper sense of you, the soul, can have moments of touching the void, the truth, the flow. In the Chinese system, they say the Tao runs through everything. It's like a great river. Truly, energy is like that. So how does this relate to enlightenment? Enlightenment is a state of beingness that occurs naturally when one has released one's grip on the refractions, when one has released attachment to defining the flow, manipulating the flow, controlling the flow, understanding the flow, because this mind is itself a refraction. So you may say, well, enlightenment sounds like an impossible task. No, not impossible. Just rare. Not common here on Earth School, here on this planet of grand refractions. Because on this planet, in these bodies, we have adopted density as our normal. Density meaning friction, meaning form, meaning the structure of things that have edges and definition. Thoughts have edges and definition. Beliefs have edges and definitions. There are boundaries between, when one has traversed or transgressed the belief. So do you see that your spiritual approach is defined by density? This entire zone of birth, this entire zone of, we call it the playground, it's a lot easier to accept. This playground that we're in has defined our very perceptual capacity to touch or embrace enlightenment, or all that is. There is no way to play yourself off this game board. You cannot get smarter. You cannot get cleverer or learn a new faith or learn a new dogma or learn a new spiritual practice that will get you out of really what is a prison. It's a limited game board that has so many nuances, infinite nuances within the zone of limitation. So it will amuse people for many lifetimes. There's no way to just get smarter and get off the game board. When you feel that you're complete with Earth School, when you've had the experiences that Earth can offer, and they are wonderful, they are truly a level of wisdom that is not found in other zones. The friction of density produces a wisdom and a discernment quality to the soul, to your core essence, that you don't get in the etheric zones, that is not found outside of density. And that's the reason we're here. We've dropped into this zone of experience to have it, to be it, to grow through it, to lift off the game board. And that's the magic phrase. We do not play our way off the game board. We simply lift. We simply reach a point where I'm complete with that. And that is when the path of self-ascension is initiated. Self-ascension is a return to that which you truly are, not the flesh jumpsuit, not the body. You can identify with the body for a long time. And at some point, as your consciousness begins to embrace the essence of your energy, you will discover and remember that you're not your body. It is a tool. It is a beautiful gift. And so when this awakening process begins to really bear fruit in your consciousness, the ego starts to relax a little bit. It loosens its grip on your reality. The ego will never loosen its grip as long as fear is your God. The ego will only soften in the presence of the unconditional love of the soul. So as we allow the trust of the divine, the trust of our soul's compassion, our soul's truth, to come forward in our lives, the ego begins to soften. That's magic. That's wondrous. And that is when we touch what we call ascension awareness. We begin to now know the difference between being in density and being apart or simply active in density. It's one thing to be consumed, to be the fish in the water. It's another thing to be self-aware that I'm having a fish experience. I'm having a human experience. And that is where the pathway to true enlightenment is begun, with consciousness. Prior to that time, it may have been a yearning, an urge, an energy of momentum, because it's in your DNA, and your DNA is saying, wake up. We'll talk more about this in another mini lesson down the road here. However, this information that I've shared with you today is foundational for your good mind to understand that the pathway is not mental, yet it must be allowed by the mind. The pathway is an awakening of the heart without the dogma of human refraction. The pathway is the awakening of your essential energy that is found through the heart, so that it may come forward and lead your experience, your unique path of self-ascension, the restoration of your authentic truth, the empowerment of your authentic energy, and ultimately the enlightenment of that state of beingness that is all that is. Namaste.